I've got a good friend of mine. He's always looking for the formula. You know people like that? That was me. Okay, I went to West Point, and at West Point what they do is they make you take all kinds of courses. I went swearing I would never take another math course in my life. I had 2.5 years of calculus. They made you take that. They made you take electrical engineering. They made you take literature. They made you take international relations. It was the breadth. And it made you an expert in nothing. But you could speak to people about anything. Okay? And what it did, since I wasn't wired to do math and to do the engineering and those kind of things, what it did is it made me always look for the system and the formula, the way to get by. I mean, I did stuff where I would memorize quotations for a test. They'd give you this, it'll be one of these 6 questions. I had an uncanny ability to be able to know which one it was. You sort of decipher through and find it, and this is the one it's going to be, and I would prepare for that one and memorize quotations, page numbers, and so you'd blow tests away. But you know, the problem is I tried to live my life that way. I tried to find the system and to game it. And what my friend said about looking for the formula to pray to get what he wanted is exactly that, and it resonated. And yet the thing we have to realize is we're not alone in that. It's not the way to live, but we're not alone in it. Years ago, when Jesus was preparing to leave this earth, the night before he was betrayed, he was trying to comfort his disciples, and he made some statement about, where I'm going, you can't come. You don't know the way. And Thomas, who I think gets a bum rap in Scripture because I think he was wired more like me, so I have to say he got a bum rap, right? Doubting Thomas, how's he known? Come on. But what he did is he goes, Jesus, we don't know the way. Like, show us the way, and we'll go with you. And Jesus gives this strange retort to that, and he tells him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. Now, if you're Thomas, that is an extremely disappointing statement. Because what you want is you want the roadmap right there, and here's Jesus going, I'm the way, and you're sitting there going, great, what does that mean? What does that mean, Jesus? I just want to know, you say we can't go with you, we don't know the way, and I say, show us the way, and you go, I am the way, and yet you're leaving. What does that mean? And I think it's a good thing for us to wrestle with 2,000 years later, because it is dynamite what he says in this. When we look in this sermon series, Jesus is blank. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And he says it here, no one comes to the Father but through him. And I want to look at this and just unpack it bit by bit. The first thing he says in this is, I am the way. And for years, maybe you've been assaulted by Christians in this. I have been. I've actually been an assaulter before in this. Somebody goes, I don't understand about that. Jesus is the way. And they're sitting there like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? We need to first be able to listen, because we need to know that he is the way to what? He's the way to what? Sometimes we try to answer that he's the way without answering the way to what. I'll tell you what, if you want the way to wealth, Jesus may not be the way. There are people out there that can teach you how to invest in the stock market. You can make money, you can do things. There's a way that's not Jesus to become wealthy. If you want to know the way to physical fitness, you hire a personal trainer, right? You go to the gym, you work out, you invest in that. Jesus is not that way. But if you want the way in this life to bridge the gap between you and the God you know exists, If you want the way to live in this life and to navigate the waters of this life in a way that you are fulfilled, in a way that has purpose and meaning, there is no other way. First thing we have to do is answer the way to what? It's not just a way, though. It's what? The way. Jesus is very specific in each one of these. And in the Greek, when that article is there, that definite the, pay attention. And it is in these because there is no other. Period. Period. As a matter of fact, this whole series of statements gets a little bit more emphatic when Jesus said, I am. For us, that's not a big thing to say. When someone says, I am, we're waiting for them to say, I am what? When Jesus said, I am, in the context of Judaism, where I am was the divine name, he literally is saying, I and only I am the way, the truth. It's very emphatic, and it would catch his hearers by the way. Very, very, very catching, very emphatic at that point. And when we say Jesus is the way, what happens at that point is our ears perk up, because now he's going to tell us what? How to get there. He's going to tell us the system. What more do you want? Jesus is God in human flesh. We've already seen that. He's one of us, and he's also God. So if we want to know how to get what we want from God, who could better tell us? Jesus. I've heard it preached that way. But he doesn't say, I'll show you the way. He makes this strange statement, I am the way. And friends, if you want to make it through this life in a way that is powerful and purposeful, in a way that gives you peace and bridges that gulf between us and God, that we know when it's quiet outside of Jesus, it's there. It's not bound up in a roadmap. It's bound up in a relationship. And when Jesus said, I am the way, what he's pointing to is the fact that it is about, the way isn't about the roadmap, it's about the relationship with him. That's exactly what it is. And you may be like me or not with this, but there are times in my life, I try to be faithful to God in the relationship. But there are times that I don't take too much thought of him, right? I don't think of him too much, and I'm thinking about maybe all the other things that are facing me, or maybe it's the desires I have and things I want to do. And when I fall flat on my face, I go from not thinking about him to all of a sudden, I'm a Jesus stalker. I mean, I hate to admit it, but yeah, I can be, all right? And so it's like, oh God, I just want to be close to you because I'm, whatever. There it is. And it seems like we can almost do this flip from careless about God to stalking him. And the thing we need to know and to nail is that both of those are not necessary. They're wrong. Jesus doesn't want you to be a stalker, because a stalker, does the celebrity want the stalker? No, not unless they need the publicity. Not unless your last name's Kardashian. No, I'm just... But I shouldn't have said that. That was, sorry. It's just, I got an amen on that, I think. No. But I shouldn't have, because they need Jesus as much as I do. They don't need him anymore. But it's not that we're forcing ourselves on somebody that doesn't want us. Jesus gives us the invitation. A stalker is somebody that gets in their mind that they should have a relationship with this person. And even if that other person doesn't want them, they build up, this backstory in their mind. And all along, Jesus is going, come to me. The God of the universe is going, come to me. The way, he is the way. It's about a relationship with him. And that makes me just go, wow, a relationship with God. Well, if Jesus is the way, I want to know what was his way. And you know what his way was? The way of the cross. The way of the cross. The background of Luke 9:23 here. Jesus had fed the 5,000. He was at a high point there. He went away and withdrew a little bit with his disciples, and he asked his disciples, he goes, by the way, who do people say that I am? And so some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, blah, 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 blah. He goes, but who do you say I am? And Peter at that point goes, you are the Christ, the Son of the Most High God. And Jesus goes, blessed are you. Flesh and blood didn't reveal that to you, but my Father is in heaven. And let me tell you what's going to happen. The Son of Man is going to go, and he is going to be rejected, and he is going to be killed, and then he's going to rise again. And Peter, of course, tries to rebuke him and all that, and Jesus turns to him and says, get behind me, Satan. And then after that, he goes, listen, if anyone wants to follow me, anyone, who's that open to? Anyone wants to follow me, he must deny himself. The Son of Man is going to be rejected. Deny self. Sounds like rejection. The Son of Man said he was going to be killed. Take up his cross daily. How is the Son of Man going to be killed? On the cross. What do we have to take up? Our cross. You see the pattern, the parallel? And then he goes and he will be raised again, and his whole thing to you is, and follow me. That life is what? Following him. The way of Jesus isn't the way of prosperity. I don't care what you see on TV. The way of Jesus is not the way of shame. I don't care how you feel inside. The way of Jesus is the way of the cross. And we have a tendency to look at that rejection of that cross as ultimate. And Jesus goes, that's the way to freedom. That's the way to freedom. Because when you deny yourself, when you take up your cross daily, and when you're following me, you're going to find your life. You are absolutely going to find it. It's interesting that the Christians, before they were called Christians, they called the whole movement of Christianity the way. The way. What did Jesus say he was? The way. These things aren't accidental. People saw the connection between the way they lived and the way that Jesus pointed and the way he lived. And it's, why is it the way? And I don't know any better way to hit it home. What I want to do is hit it home with this. Paul was a follower of Jesus. Paul fell in love with, Paul had been a hater of Jesus, okay? I don't care how much you may have at one point hated Jesus in your life. I'll guarantee you weren't there as much as Paul unless you killed people because they were Christians. That's where he was. And then God laid hold of him, and Paul fell in love with Jesus. He was changed from the inside out, and he fell in love with Jesus. And later on in ministry, he wrote this statement. And this to me is what it means for Jesus to be the way. I have been crucified with Christ. If anyone comes after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross. I've been crucified with Christ, and it's no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself up for me. Who was the way for him? Jesus. And it wasn't about being so consumed about which way do I go, what do I do, who should I marry, it's Jesus, I am going to walk with you and in you and focus on you, and you are going to be the center. You're going to be the center. And I've shared this before. We did a little thing out at Horizons Kids Club where we were talking about Peter in the boat and how when Peter wanted to walk on the water, he got out, and when he was looking at Jesus, everything was fine. When he took his eyes off of Jesus and put it on the waves, what happened? He became an anchor. If Jesus hadn't have grabbed him. That's exactly it. And so we played this little game with the kids, and what the kids did is I sat there holding a picture of Jesus, and they had to walk this straight line, and Beth played the wind and the waves and trying to get them to look everywhere else going around like this, right? And as long as they looked at Jesus, they could walk a pretty straight line. But when they started looking at the moving target, guess what? Jesus is the way. And we can't see him and keep our physical eyes on him. But we can go, God, you are here. And I'm going to focus my life and my energy and my attention on you. And as I direct this way, you know what? You're going to direct the other paths. And they're going to play out. And it's going to be okay. He's bridged the gap between God and man. Forgiveness is in him and only in him. Hope is in him and only in him. We could go on. Because he's the way. But he's not only the way. It tells us he's the truth as well. Webster defines truth as the state of being the case. Right? The body of real things, events and facts. Pretty straightforward. The problem is now with there's a huge problem with truth. There's a whole philosophical study called epistemology, which is the study of truth. And now you may talk to somebody about something, they go, well, that's true for you, but it's not true for me. Now look at it and go, how do you respond to that? Because quite frankly, if we live our life that way, there can be no unifying purpose. There can be no ultimate goal. The truth for me may mean, and I was here before I became a follower of Jesus, I really was. If you take that to its logical conclusion, it is every bit as moral for me to walk up to an older lady on the street who needs to be helped across and beat her to a pulp as it is to help her. Because my morality is my truth. And if I choose it, I choose it. What's good for you is not good for others, may work with the color of paint on your wall. Come look at ours. But it will not work when it comes to truth. It will not work. Truths are absolute. If you don't believe it, try to defy the law of gravity. It doesn't work. And Jesus in this talks about truth. Truth isn't this body of beliefs that he lays out there. He isn't sitting there going, well, truth is, boom, and he lays this down. He goes, I am the truth. Truth is embodied in a person. And in Jesus, 100% of the grace that is there to men and women is found. 100%. As a matter of fact, look at the comparison between Jesus and those that went before him. And just a couple of things. Moses in the wilderness gave the children of Israel the law. Who did the law ever save? You know what the law did? Huh? Condemned, absolutely. Absolutely. Come on, you were kids. Your parents said, don't go outside. And you may have had no intention of going outside, but all of a sudden, it became alluring. And so you went outside, and then you feel condemned. The law has that effect. It is the schoolmaster that leads us to the point of going, I can't. I can't do all this. I'm guilty. I've broken it. I can't make it right. I need something more. The law from God, good and holy, through Moses. Grace and truth through Jesus. And without grace, without truth, you can't do it. Moses gave the children of Israel in the wilderness from God manna. I don't know what manna was, but it's White coriander seed, flaky, turn to worms after 24 hours, whatever. Supposedly very good. Jesus is the bread of life. It's temporary. The stuff in this world, temporary. It can taste great, but it's temporary. The truth, Jesus, the bread of life, forever. We could go on and on with this. We need truth. Friends, you can't build your life on a lie and have it be full of joy, have it have any purpose, and for it to go anywhere good. We need truth. In John chapter 8, 31 and 32, Jesus was saying to the Jews who'd believed on him, if you continue in my word, then you're truly my disciples. Different translation. And you shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. So truth brings what? Freedom. You know that what he doesn't tell you in this? A guy named Jamie Buckingham, minister, wrote this book, and he goes, the truth will set you free, but first it'll make you miserable. Haven't you ever experienced that? When you first went to ride a bicycle, the first thing that's in your mind is, I can do this. You get on the bicycle and what happens? You fall. And the truth is you're fighting gravity and balance. It's there. If you get a little off balance, gravity takes over. And so you have to add forward momentum to get the balance. And so you learn that truth, and then you can do it. The truth will make you miserable morally as well. You start to see before the law of God, which is the truth, that you are a rebel. You're not just neutral about God outside of Jesus. You're a rebel. You are an enemy of God outside of Jesus because you've set your life against him by your will. You've done all of these things, and you start to see the repercussions of that. And it crushes you, but when you see that truth and you look at the one who is truth and you run to him, there's forgiveness. And that's truth. And the truth sets you free. The truth is you can't. The truth is Jesus did. The truth is it's only in him there's forgiveness and hope. So that's part of what the truth does. The other thing that happens with the truth, Jesus, the night before he was betrayed, was praying to God the night he was betrayed. And he cried out to his Father, talking about the followers that he had, sanctify them in the truth. Your word is truth. Sanctify them in truth. You want to grow closer to God? Sanctified? You want to grow closer to God? You've got to have truth. You've got to have truth, and you've got to hold on to it, and the truth's in the Word. I may not like it in the Bible when it says that I shouldn't cheat someone else because I'm good at it, and I can get ahead. But what I have to do at that point is go, but God says, and I have to follow that truth. And Jesus, he's washing me anyway. I'm clean in his eyes because of his grace. But now he's starting to straighten out my character. He's starting to straighten it out. Without the truth, there's no sanctification. Jesus is the truth. And the whole thing is here, if I want to be close to God, who do I have to be close to? Jesus. If I want to know the truth, you can ask me, but you'd be better off going to Jesus. Now, I may have an understanding of his word, and we can look at that together, but it's his word. Let's go to him. And it's there in him. The last thing he says he is, and this is the one that had to boggle their mind, he goes, I am the life. Stop a minute. When you think about Christians, do you think of the life of the party? I mean, I think about words like prude and wet blanket and nuisance. You could keep going, probably. Don't leave me hanging out here, okay? You can, Holy roller. I mean, all these things come in. Beyond that, what Jesus is saying at this point, if we're left to ourselves, you know what? It's death. Plain and simple. If you're left to yourself, it's death. There's death because you're going to follow a way that's far away from God and far away from forgiveness, and He is the Creator who will judge. There's death because you can be dead while you're alive. You know, some of the deadest people I've known are people that outwardly had a lot of things. There are people that have nothing that are dead too. But it doesn't matter out there. If there's not a pursuit of Jesus as life, you're going to find little things that'll bring you fulfillment for a while, and then it's going to be empty. And then you're going to look for something else, and it'll bring you a little something for a while, and then you're going to be empty. And then you're going to find something that you get the pattern. Part of the judgment of God, in order to make it where people turn to Him, is He will give you over to what you pursue. You want to pursue sex? Go ahead. Let's see how that does. And it leaves a hole in your soul after a while. At first, maybe great. Maybe it's money. You know, if I could just pay my bills. Okay, there you go. Need a little more. There you go. Need a little more. Got a lot. How much do you need? A little more. And you're empty. You're empty. The reason Jesus said He's the life is because left to ourselves, separation, death, emptiness. Emptiness. Jesus came, why? That you might have life and have it just a little bit. Have it what? To the full. Okay, I confess at this point, I look at that and there are times I go, Jesus, I don't have it. I feel like sometimes I am running on empty in my life. And when I look at the Bible here, whose fault is that? Who came to steal, kill, and destroy? The enemy, Satan. And who am I listening to? Him, if I'm empty. Jesus came that you might have life and have it to the full. Friends, this is still very vivid to me. Mother Teresa and Princess Diana died within about a month of each other way long ago, okay? What's that, over 10 years, wasn't it? And the thing that I remember is, if I had to look at it from the outside, who would I have rather been? Oh, no, from the outside, who would I have rather been? Mother Teresa, I want to look like a prune and be poor. Hold on, no. She was not attractive on the outside. She was about this tall, not attractive, and had nothing. They put all her possessions in a little box. And Princess Diana had looks, as much as a British person can, power, influence, right? She had all those things. When all is said and done, who would I rather be? Who seemed full of joy? I mean, to me, when I looked at Princess Diana, she was always trying to fill a hole. Maybe it was working with AIDS people. Maybe it was rumored affairs stuff. Maybe it was, whatever. She had holes in her marriage and her life everywhere. And I felt sorry for her, truthfully. And when I look at Mother Teresa, here's someone who, in the middle of that pruny face, had a smile and had joy. And at her funeral, I think it was somewhere between 1 and 300,000 people, I can't remember. No names, lined the streets of Calcutta. There was a joy that was there in her. Who had life to the full? I'd have to go with her. That's why Jesus came, and it doesn't look like what we call the full in America. And it's not about money. It's not about friends. Those things, you can have it or not have it. There are people who are very poor that have life, and there are people that are very rich that have life to the full. It's not about that. It's about the one who is the life. Jesus. Jesus. Again, in Colossians 3:4, and this puts it very plainly, Paul writing, and he goes, when Christ, who what? Is your life. And I read through the Bible pretty aggressively every year, and this is one of those passages that there have been years that I've just read through it. When Christ who is life appears, I'm going through, right, reading. But every once in a while, this is one of those that when I read that, I go, when Christ who is your life appears, and I go, what? And that always leads me to confession. Because I go, God, I view my life as mine. And me and what I do more often than I view my life as Christ. As a matter of fact, God, I don't even understand what that means. How can I have my life be you? How? But I know it can happen. And in Paul, I saw somebody who had it all and lost it, who gained more. That's what I want. So I don't know what it is, but I want you to be my life, Jesus. And I guess that means that if I'm going to live and have you be my life, that rather than me being at the very center of it, who's going to have to be at the center of it? You are. And I guess that if you're going to be my life, rather than me doing all the things I want to do, my first thing has to be going, Jesus, what would you do? What do you want me to do? And then I'm going to have to start to try to see people the way you see them. And that means I can't separate them into categories that I can love and hate. I'm going to have to see everybody the way you see them, which is you made them. And if God so loved the world, that means I have to love the world. Maybe except for ISIS. But you didn't say that. And those people that are over there need you no less than I do. So I've got to learn to love people that hate me. Do you see where this is going? When you follow God and you follow Jesus, it's not about the roadmap. We want the formula. We want the shortcut. We want the way and something that we can handle and we can do and take the next step and get on to our next challenge. And what Jesus was telling Thomas and what he's telling us today is everything in life isn't bound up in what you do and what you know. It is bound up, and you've always suspected this. It's not what you know, it's who you know. It's bound up in him. And it doesn't matter whether you've got a little or a lot in the material realm, or in the talent realm, or in the looks realm, or in the abilities, it doesn't matter. When Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life in your life, one, you get to the Father. And I don't think that's just a statement of eternity in the future. There's a relationship now through Jesus. And there's fullness. You know, the old thing is in Sunday school or children's church, you get out there, and I don't know if you've ever been at a church that does children's church before or children's messages. What they do is they'll call all the children forward here, and they'll be sitting there, and they all look cute, and everybody goes ooh and ah because they come forward, right? And there's some little object lesson that the pastor has or whoever's doing it, and he picks it up, and he starts telling about it, and then he'll ask them a question, and almost inevitably the kids will go, Jesus! Because what? They know somehow it's going to get back to Jesus. Maybe we need to learn that, huh? Somehow it all gets back to Jesus. It's all about him. It's all about him. He is the way, the truth, and the life. He is the forgiver. He's the Son of Man, the Son of God, the fullness of what we need. Let's pray together.